side of the pyramids the Google debunkers don't want you to know about. Harnessing energy from inside the earth and transmitting it wirelessly around the world for free. The Giza Power Plant theory. We finally have the scientific and just plain commonsensical proof to back it up.
Warning, Philip is a professional mind blower. The topics discussed are not for the closed-minded.
Even Tesla's experiments of this very nature were successful, but his work mysteriously vanished after he passed away. As it turns out, Tesla didn't invent this technology. He just rediscovered it over 5,000 years later. Pyramids. Don't y'all get a little half-chub when I talk about them? Cause I sure do. We're fed the narrative that they were built as tombs for pharaohs, but there's just endless evidence against that. I spat 10 unbelievably raw facts about the pyramids in a previous video, which were all true, but of course the Google debunkers desperately tried to prove them wrong. We'll let them have their fun so that we can focus on exploring history with a critical mind. Take, for example, the Great Pyramid of Giza, the biggest one there is, which is said to have been built as a tomb for Khufu, a pharaoh who ruled 4,500 years ago. Despite it having zero characteristics of actual Egyptian tombs, you know, where real mummies of pharaohs were actually found. Like in the Valley of Kings, a complex of underground tombs complete with enormous grand entrances and hallways adorned with hieroglyphs, beautiful wall art, and intricate architecture commemorating pharaohs like Tutankhamun and Ramses, whose bodies were found among dozens of others in elegant sarcophagi in this valley. And here we have the Great Pyramid of Giza. Narrow tunnels, awkwardly angled walkways, and passageways you literally have to crawl to get through. And those wood steps you see, we added ourselves in recent times because they were literally unwalkable when first discovered. Strangely designed and although impressive, kinda plain looking inner chambers. No artifacts, no hieroglyphs, no carvings, no wall art was ever found inside of Giza. In fact, not a single mummy was found in this pyramid, or any Egyptian pyramid for that matter, and yes, that's a fact, go search it up. We're told that they were raided by thieves, and that's why there's nothing left. Really? Did the thieves steal the carvings and paint on the walls too? The sarcophagus in Giza, where they assume Khufu's mummy was kept and also stolen by those pesky thieves, was this plain-looking granite box in a room with flooring and walls that were cut with greater precision than the box itself. Ancient Egyptians saw pharaohs as gods, so yeah, let's just stuff the one that we made a whole-ass pyramid for into this crude box with narrow chambers, tiny shafts, and no stories or wall art commemorating their death. Here's what King Tut's tomb looked like. And King Ramses. Intricate art and masterfully designed, both of which were found in the Valley of Kings. And here's the tomb of the guy they dedicated the biggest structure in the world for. Makes perfect sense, right? On the other hand, King Ramses had some of the most massive statues built in his name, weighing up to 1,000 tons that we see remnants of sprawled all throughout ancient Egypt. Meanwhile, the man who had the largest tomb in history has only one recovered statue we've ever found. It's 3 inches tall. Let me get this straight. Giza, the most epic and just painstakingly difficult structure on the planet, was a tomb with absolutely no characteristics of a tomb for a pharaoh with no visible remaining presence in Egypt and whose body was never found. Other characteristics of the pyramid tells us it had a very different purpose, one that's turned a fringe theory into a scientific one. The pyramid was aligned perfectly with true north to less than a degree of accuracy, architecture matched only with modern engineering. The base of the pyramid is perfectly leveled to within 3/4 of an inch, something that's again only possible with like laser technology today. A structure that was made with 2.3 million stone blocks weighing between 2 and 80 tons each, built within allegedly 25 years. Meaning they'd have to place 10 stones an hour every hour for 25 years non-stop to achieve that. That's 1 stone every 6 minutes. People love to refute this with, oh, they had slaves, like it's some magic silver bullet, but I think they might be forgetting about a little thing called logistics. As in, how do you physically coordinate 20, 30, 50,000 people to lay a colossal stone every 6 minutes, day and night for 25 years non-stop? Yeah, slaves, bro. They had slaves. Trust me, bro, is even more ridiculous than these fringe theories. Each side of Giza is also about 755 feet long and are all within 2 inches of the same length as each other. That's a 99.98% range of accuracy. Once again, on par or even better than modern architecture. It also doesn't actually have 4 sides. It has 8, which cast shadows, making them visible only during the equinox, which definitely ain't no coincidence. It's a proven fact that the ancients were obsessed with celestial events like the equinox. That's the time of year when the length of day equals the length of night, the first day of spring and fall. There are 43,200 seconds of daylight during that time. That's 12 hours of the Egyptian sun god blessed blessing them with daylight on the most important day of the year, an absolutely sacred number by any means. Now, if you get the perimeter and the height of the pyramid, multiply them by that number, you get the circumference and polar radius of the Earth within a 99.3 to 99.7 range of accuracy, absolutely negligible margins of error, essentially making Giza a scale model of the Earth. It's also placed at the center of landmass of the world, passes through the light speed coordinate, and a whole list of other coincidences. Skeptics absolutely insist these are all just coincidences and just pseudo-archaeologists forcing facts together until something fits. So what do all these measurements mean? Well, firstly, they clearly had some knowledge and technology that we don't give them credit for. And the simple truth is, no one in history would ever make something so precise by accident. Because we see the same in the materials used for constructing the pyramids. They're the same materials we use today for electrical conductivity, which is no stranger to the ancient world. In 1934, an artifact known as the Baghdad Battery was uncovered in Iraq. It consisted of a ceramic pot, a copper tube, and a rod of iron, which when combined with an electrolyte solution, something as simple as a potato, as I talked about in my video about powering the galaxy with potato batteries, it can produce an electric current. From an artifact dated to over 2,000 years old. Ancient batteries, just like the pyramids. The closer you look, the more you realize this pyramid was definitely not made for burying the dead, because the materials they used to build it are exactly what we'd use today to create an electric current. Giza used to be covered with bright white casing stones that were virtually airtight, made out of polished limestone brought from Tura, a quarry 500 miles away. Oh, they just wanted the pyramids to look all nice and white and cute, right? So much that they were willing to drag stones the length of Florida away to do so, for the aesthetic. This special limestone from Tura happens to have less magnesium in it than regular limestone, making it an ideal insulator of electricity, as well as perfect for reflecting sunlight to keep the inside cool. The interior chambers of the pyramid were built with rose granite containing 85% quartz, which is piezoelectric, meaning it produces a small electric charge when moved or squeezed, the same quartz that's used to power a watch battery or a barbecue lighter. Granite also ionizes the air inside the chambers, which further increases the conductivity of electricity. On top of being sourced from Aswan, another quarry hundreds of miles away, the granite slabs inside Giza have these weird structural designs to them that don't exactly look good and are just incredibly difficult to make. Why on earth would you build a roof like this that just makes the job 10 times harder using 80-ton stone blocks from hundreds of miles away that you can't even see from inside the chamber when it's done? Historians will tell you they were relieving chambers, meant to keep the room from collapsing from the great weight of the pyramid overhead, even though the chambers below had no such relief. On the other hand, if you were somehow able to apply pressure to these chambers, you'd get an electric charge from the quartz. A lot of it. But electricity can't just exist if we want to utilize it for energy. It needs to get directed through something in order for us to make use of it, an electric current. Copper is often used in wires to do just that. And take a wild guess what a remote camera revealed in the pyramid's narrow shafts just a few years back. 2 copper handles embedded into the stone at the end of the shaft, the only metal to have ever been confirmed in Giza, as well as a set of what appear to be instructions that looks like a wiring diagram painted on the side of the shaft, to which modern Egyptologists claim these handles were used with ropes to pull jars up the shaft. They're just getting desperate at this point. These shafts really have no confirmed purpose. They're commonly referred to as air vents, but some of them don't even lead to the outside. In 2013, former Egyptian Antiquities Minister Zahi Hawass was accused of theft of Egyptian artifacts from the pyramid. In the list of items rumored to have been stolen, there was one that stood out from the rest. Long copper wires. A strange artifact by any means, and just what you'd need to complete an electric current. So were the pyramids built as giant batteries? I mean, we have all the pieces in place, but how exactly would this battery even work? Aerospace engineer Chris Dunn popularized the Giza Power Plant theory by kinda proving it with actual science, hard numbers, and a scale model. From the top, this is what the inside of Giza looks like: a top or king's chamber with a lower queen's chamber underneath it, a large slanted shaft, the grand gallery connecting both chambers, and a bottom subterranean chamber with a bunch of long narrow shafts leading into each. According to Dunn, the pyramid is what's called a coupled oscillator, a device that's connected to a larger vibrating body in such a way that energy can be transferred between them, converting vibrational energy, the natural resonance of the Earth, into microwave energy. Now, the Earth, it vibrates, producing frequencies in the form of natural underground seismic activity, the Schumann resonances in Earth's electromagnetic fields, as well as the movement of water in key locations just below Earth's surface, which also creates vibrational frequencies. The entire process starts in the subterranean chamber, which was built directly above underground aquifers with powerful flowing water right under the pyramids. A convenient location for the perfect coincidence theory. It's said that the flowing water and possibly even seismic activity of the Earth would create vibrational waves that resonate throughout the pyramid. Vibrational waves that would be maximized at the center of mass of any object. And Giza, just so happens to sit at the center of landmass of the world. Coincidence? Now the real kicker was when traces of zinc and hydrochloric acid were found in the shafts leading into the Queen's Chamber. Dunn suggests that some ancient form of these two chemicals were poured down the shafts and mixed together in the chamber, which would trigger a chemical reaction, one that releases hydrogen gas, a proven process using the exact trace chemicals that were found in the shafts. The gas would travel from the Queen's Chamber through the Grand Gallery and up into the King's Chamber, while the pressure of the gas compresses the granite quartz and creates piezoelectricity, another proven process. The vibrations from below would trigger resonators in the Grand Gallery, which it was believed that 27 acoustic devices were placed in the empty slots that can be found here. The compressed quartz would create the spark for the vibrations to energize the hydrogen atoms into a microwave energy beam, which would reach the King's Chamber through this 4.8 times 8.4 inch watertight shaft cut into the granite. Conveniently, the perfect size for the hydrogen microwave wavelength at 21 centimeters, and the exact dimensions of what we call a waveguide today, a structure that guides the transmission of energy waves in one direction. And let me remind you, granite is harder than steel. Cutting a shaft like this is damn near impossible with known ancient technology, and definitely not something they do for fun. These microwaves would further resonate in the King's Chamber, which was tuned to a very specific frequency using those layers of stones in the roof. Remember those incredibly difficult stones above the chamber? That's how they tuned the pyramid's frequency. The sarcophagus in this room is expected to have been some source of high voltage, like the Baghdad battery, to further ionize the hydrogen and make that room super conductive. Gold-capped tips, as we believe the pyramids to have had, would also make the perfect conductor to attract the electricity and send it up into the atmosphere. Sounds like it's time for me to take my meds. A super pseudoscientific theory and highly theoretical at that, until you realize in 2018, studies proved that the pyramids can focus electromagnetic energy in their internal chambers and also directly beneath them. That's real, quantifiable, scientific evidence that supports this theory. Many archaeologists also report electromagnetic readings inside of the pyramids and directly above them. So the pyramid's exterior was made with an insulator, the interior with conductors, and the chambers with material that produces electricity. Are these all just coincidences? And even if we did have electricity generated in the pyramids, how would this energy even be distributed for everyone to use? Our boy Tesla may have known the answer and was silenced from revealing it to the world. Free, unlimited energy for the entire world. They really tried to tell us it wasn't possible. Alright, calm down there, Mr. First Law of Thermodynamics, because we had one of the smartest people in history on the job. It's said that Nikola Tesla actually invented a system for free wireless electricity accessible by everyone on Earth. Turns out, he may not have been the one who came up with it, but was using ancient knowledge over 5,000 years old. Tesla is famously quoted as saying, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." What was he trying to tell us? He has quite the resume. The founder of alternating current, which runs our entire power grid today, and was also a huge advocate of free wireless electricity, which is exactly what his Wardenclyffe Tower project intended to do. A structure that was designed to harness energy from the natural vibrations of the Earth and convert them into electric potential. Exactly what the Giza Power Plant theory suggests the pyramids were built and used for. Tesla publicly demonstrated his use of wireless electricity by famously lighting light bulbs without any wires attached to them. Wardenclyffe Tower was the scaled up version of that, and millionaire J.P. Morgan saw incredible potential in profiting from Tesla's ideas, so he helped fund the construction of this tower. And just like the pyramids, it was built directly on top of underground aquifers, cavities beneath the surface with powerful flowing water that produced natural vibrations, using copper wires and iron rods extending deep beneath the surface to transmit this energy up through the tower and into the atmosphere, then distribute that energy wirelessly around the world for anyone to use through a conductive layer of Earth's ionosphere. According to him, Earth was a giant electrical generator spinning around two magnetic poles, which it is, and it produces a ton of energy. In the 1897 patent Tesla filed, he claimed that at a certain altitude above the Earth, there's a stratum of air that can conduct electric currents, which at the time was considered wacky pseudoscience, but in 1952 was discovered to actually exist, known as the Schumann resonances. Through this conductive layer of the atmosphere, the electricity would theoretically be distributed around the world via a network of receiving towers. Tesla, along with many eyewitness reports, claimed that the tests of the tower in 1903 were incredibly successful. They lit up the night sky and even powered nearby objects. Newspapers even reported on it, like this: Tesla's amazing plan to harness free currents, back when you could actually report on the news without getting censored. But ask any debunker who wasn't there and they'll tell you these towers didn't produce enough electricity to be useful and were also harmful to anyone near them. In order for this network of wireless energy to work, it would need quite a few of these towers in key locations around the world. When Tesla asked JP for more money to continue his work, Mr. Morgan took a look and realized shit wouldn't end well for him if he continued. JP Morgan owned General Electric, AT&T, copper and coal mines, lumber yards, rubber plants, steel mills, railroads, all of which required the consumption of traditional fuels to keep running. If he invested in more of these towers to deliver virtually free energy to everyone in the world, it would render the rest of his businesses obsolete. So he cut off funding and even told his rich friends to ignore this project, despite Tesla sending him monthly letters asking for more money for 5 years straight. Tesla lost his funding, the tower was destroyed, and he died relatively poor, having all of his work seized by the government after his death, never to be seen again. And strangely enough, the Government Office of Alien Property was standing by and ready to take a shit as soon as Tesla passed in 1943, raiding his New York City apartment and warehouses, confiscating all documents, some of which were given to a certain John G. Trump. Quite an interesting tale for another time. Skeptics love calling Tesla a mad scientist crackpot, dismissing this theory as pure fiction, but his list of inventions is among the most impressive out of almost anyone in history. Along with his revolutionary experiments, Tesla invented AC electricity, which powers your home, and the electric motor. Everything you see here, as well as the remote control, the radio, improvements to the X-ray, and even predicted smartphones and the internet back in 1926. He's quoted as saying, "When wireless is perfectly applied, the whole earth will be converted into a huge brain. We shall be able to communicate with one another instantly, irrespective of distance." That's exactly what we have today. Pause if you want to read the whole quote, which, may I remind you, is 100 years old. His proposed network of towers would have supplied unlimited, clean, and basically free energy worldwide, using the principles of the Giza Power Plant theory, which Tesla was actually a firm believer in. He was fascinated by the pyramids of ancient Egypt and even drew inspiration from them in his work, with his devices even being referred to as Tesla's electromagnetic pyramid, based on his designs depicting the movement of energy in his towers. Well, the pyramids are suspected to have been built for the same purpose, drawing vibrational energy from the earth and distributing it around the world through the atmosphere. Would that have even been possible 5,000 years ago? Turns out it might have, with some even claiming proof as far back as 30,000 years old. The ancient Egyptians didn't build the pyramids, but discovered them over 30,000 years later, and they even told us who the real builders were. Disclaimer, just a theory, entertainment purposes only. The Giza Power Plant theory explains why they were built, to deliver wireless, free, and clean energy to everyone worldwide. Now that we know why, we're asking, who was the original creator of this energy system? Nikola Tesla, one of the truly most ingenious pioneers of the past decade, proposed a global network of towers that would provide electricity to everyone around the world. Tesla himself was a little obsessed with the pyramids of Egypt and genuinely believed that they served a higher purpose. In fact, his idea of this network of energy towers was based on his studies of the pyramids, which eventually turned into the Giza Power Plant theory. So were our ancient ancestors also aware of this principle of unlimited wireless energy for everyone? And how would you even use this sky energy if we had it? In Tesla's model, it would work just like radios, Wi-Fi, and cell towers do today. Every home would have a receiver that draws this energy from the atmosphere and into their home. Exactly what is seen in that of the alleged Tartarian Empire, who's said to have made use of this same energy system, which we'll explore in a future video, don't worry about that. Receiving towers in modern times, sure, but what about 5,000 years ago? Man, if only Egypt had some sort of tall structures everywhere that could act as that contact point for this energy. Oh, obelisks made from a single piece of granite, which, although not directly conductive, contains quartz, and I'ma just let my boy Michio Kaku do the talking here.
These monoliths are made out of granite, and there's some quartz inside the granite, and quartz has some rather interesting properties. If I take quartz crystal and I squeeze it, I can generate electricity. Now, some people believe that the obelisks were like lightning rods that absorbed electrical energy from the heavens.
And it's been found that these obelisks were likely also capped with a conductive metal called electrum, which would have been able to receive electric currents. But no, wait, hold up. If the Egyptians really did use electricity, they should have evidence of that everywhere. That's not exactly something that you can hide. Oh, but they might, like in their famous Dendera light carving, which features what looks like a giant light bulb being held up, which no one has yet been able to explain. Or these hieroglyphs depicting a series of wires connected to what look like batteries? Of course, these are strictly speculation, but these carvings really do exist. And what about the pyramids themselves? Never mind there not being a single hieroglyph or record of their construction, which there isn't. But why are there no records of them actually using the pyramids for energy? That's because this theory suggests the Egyptians never built the pyramids. they found them. Built by another past civilization and discovered after having been dormant for tens of thousands of years. Pyramids are deemed to be at most 4,500 years old, but this is just a guess. You can't even accurately carbon date limestone or granite. Radiocarbon dating is a process that uses the half-life of carbon to find out how old something is, and contrary to popular belief, is actually pretty accurate. But it only works on things with carbon in them, like wood or bones, not rocks. The age of the pyramids was straight up guessed through historical cross-referencing, as well as carbon dating stuff like wood inside the pyramids or the mortar between the bricks, which are pretty rough guesses at best. On top of that, the Egyptians had records of everything they did, from fishing to farming, but not a single record of them building the pyramids, the greatest achievement of their civilization. That's like climbing Mount Everest and then writing a book about what you had for breakfast a year ago. The Google debunkers love bringing up this. The Diary of Merer, a papyrus script recovered in 2013 that actually mentions the construction of the pyramids? Not really. This script only outlined the process of adding limestone casing stones to the outside of the pyramid, which I don't think anyone argues the Egyptians didn't do. Not the actual construction of the core of the pyramid, which is still nowhere to be found, so nice try. Suggesting they might have not actually built the pyramids, but discovered them from much longer ago, built by a civilization far more advanced than we could have ever imagined. Even the Egyptians themselves have records that trace their lineage of pharaohs back 30,000 years, to which we dismiss as mythology. To this day, the Edfu temple in Egypt tells a story on its walls of a previous civilization that was, can you guess? Washed away by a global flood. And even the great Greek philosopher Plato, another revered genius of his time, mentions this same island of the gods in his work, which has come to be known as Atlantis, said to exist over 30,000 years ago, and may have been the ones who actually built the pyramids as an ancient source of energy within their civilization that got washed away and destroyed by global cataclysmic floods, only for the Egyptians to rediscover thousands of years later. But that we'll have to save for another time, because the lost city of Atlantis is another one of those stories we see repeated everywhere throughout history, only to get swept under the rug every time. Well, it's time we took a peek under that rug.